Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. Quick thanks to our sponsors, at Affinity WES, that's at Affinity Writing and Editing Services, on either Facebook or Twitter, at Affinity WES. If you do anything with words, they can help. Hippie Witch Vibes on Etsy.com. That's Hippie Witch Vibes, all one word, on Etsy.com. They have an eclectic collection for you to buy, and believe me, the owner works tirelessly night and day to make sure she brings you quality stuff. So that's Hippie Witch Vibes on Etsy.com. Support a friend of the show. We don't get money from them, but it's just a quality product that we believe in. I'm pointing more towards the sky today. I've found this street view kind of interesting because day to day it kind of shows you what's going on. As you can see, not a heck of a lot. We're on lockdown until June the 2nd at this point, possibly longer. So I'm hoping these videos eventually will start showing the people moving around on the street. Until then, we have a lot to talk about, which is why I'm focused on the sky. I really honestly thought that the 45th President of the United States would be the disclosure president. After all, he really enjoys running his mouth off about stuff. And he definitely had access to whatever archives were in there. Donald Trump would have loved to do that. Here we are, a year later, and we still haven't heard anything. Scientists are prepping us with all this information about which planets potentially have life, including newly discovered stuff on Venus. Maybe we've already contaminated Mars with life by certain very hardy bacteria and animals that can actually make the travel in space. For example, tardigrades. Not the nicest things, but the same token, they might already be there, setting up and be quite happy while we're still struggling to get a human there. The U.S. Navy has officially admitted to the video that was announced, 2017, 2018 in there, the Tic Tac video. They've admitted that's real and that there's other stuff that's going to be declassified. But all this is happening, they're still saving up for something. One might ask why. This would be the perfect time to announce that with so many places still in a lockdown, and even then people desperate for news other than this many people dead of the pandemic, this many people infected with the pandemic. China and the United States are declaring war on each other. Russia is threatening to join China. The European Union is doing this. India is suddenly a wild card and deciding to go with the European Union. That whole mess of politics is something I plan to explore one day. But for now, let's just look straight at the UFO issue. So what's going on? I'm not sure whether the resolution on this is quite clear enough, but if you look carefully, I'm sure you're going to see tiny little things flying around outside. And those are flies. Now, if this was at night and those flies were fireflies, I might be able to make a pretty legitimate case to say that those are UFOs. They're not. They're just little flies. Although who knows, when I play this back, I might see something in the distance, so if you see anything, feel free to correct me in the comments. Give me the time index, we'll go and look at it. Who knows, we might discover something together. I said before, one of the problems is, as a species, we don't look up anymore. Kind of funny considering our earliest ancestors, be it all the way back to Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal, they had reasons to keep track of the stars and the constellations. One of the earliest artifacts known was a bone that was carved with 30 holes, and it was believed to keep track of the positions of the moon for either knowing when the lunar month had passed by or for keeping track of women's fertility cycles. At either rate, we know 20, 30, even 40,000 years ago, humans were looking up at the sky. Now the only way most people look at the sky is if it's on this week's episode of Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever star thing is going on television lately. There's nothing wrong with that per se. We're not really an outdoor species so much anymore. We are domesticated humans. Human sapiens sapiens domesticus. Forgive my Latin if it's a bit off. Been a few years. But we're no longer the free-roaming people that are hunter-gatherers, which is always a horrible image to begin with. But we live, as you can see, in houses. We live in apartments. We live mostly in cities where there's a lot of light. Just this Friday past, I was trying to get the telescope up to set it up so we could take a look at the stars, and it was tough to find a star and stay locked on it. Once upon a time, and it wasn't that long ago, I remember the sky being lit up with all sorts of stars. And it's horrible not being able to see that. We also have, with Elon Musk's new telecom satellites, whatever cluster it is going up, a lot of false positives. So perhaps the golden age of ufology is gone. We can no longer simply sit back and wait for these things to happen. We have to make ourselves aware of what is going on. Just like in politics. In politics, we can no longer trust the media. In politics, we can no longer trust anything that's told to us on the internet, in the newspaper, whatever you have. You have to actually understand what's going on. So when it comes to ufology, we've passed the golden age of just being able to look up. Still look up. Absolutely look up. You have to participate. Like these two people are on bikes. They're participating. They're making their lives better. And perhaps you will look up and see something magnificent. Odds are with all the junk in the sky, though, you're either not going to see it for very long, and if you do, it's not going to be anything that spectacular. But it's still up to us. Yes, the stars and sciences are beyond the grasp of most people. You get a few images that are returned that are mostly digitally altered, not because of anything malicious, but simply because the raw data is pretty boring. Zeros, ones, twos, fives, tens, whatever the color palette says it is, they have to take that and translate into colors. And those are the images that you see. But when you look up in the sky and you see a star, that is unfiltered light coming from thousands, if not millions of years ago into your mind. Stuff that predates humanity itself is there just by looking up. Even the sun, although it's not visible in this particular perspective, the light is 9 minutes old by the time it gets here, although it actually spent millions, if not thousands of years getting out from the core, thanks to the conductivity in the layers of the sun. It's a miracle. But most people don't look beyond the horizon of those buildings. To be honest, most people don't look beyond what's right in front of them. That's all they see. Blammo. It's a real problem with the human condition, human nature. We have such tunnel vision. We only concern ourselves with what's in front of us. There's a universe to explore, all this beautiful stuff up there. But no, we'd rather just focus on the little bit down here. Does that make any sense? Did Einstein only concern himself with what was in front of him? No. Did Hawking? No. Did Neil deGrasse Tyson? No. They all asked questions. They wanted to find things out. They looked up at the sky. And this is something I wholeheartedly recommend to each and every one of you. Even if it's only for a few seconds, and it's getting, in the Northern Hemisphere, it's lighter late at night. So you know what? Look up. Whether it's day, whether it's night, whatever it might be, it's worth it for you to look up. Maybe you see a beautiful day like today where the sky is nice and clear, the tree is coming back to life, my hedges need to be clipped, or maybe you see something interesting. Right now around here, the planes are grounded, but that doesn't mean you're not going to see something. We had something go overhead the other day. I know it wasn't one of our F-18s. I think it was an F-15. And I found out they were doing exercises. Most of the people around here didn't even notice. An F-15 is not a quiet jet. It's quite loud. And here it was, toddling here, well out of its territory. Just because I looked up. Always look up, because when you look down, your troubles seem harder. When you look at long-distance hikers, they don't stare at their feet going 1 foot over the other. They stare off in the distance. They concentrate on a point, like the tree that's way down there in front of that house. And then when they get close to the tree, they shift to the apartment building. They keep shifting, so that way they're always looking at the future. It's the army trick to look at your feet and count step by step so you don't notice how far you've gone. It feels like a constant rhythm. But the Army is not teaching you to aspire to do higher things. They're teaching you to be all that you can be. Hikers, explorers, scientists demand to know more. And we demand to know what's going on with the UFOs. It's long since time that we found out. And disclosure is not necessarily going to happen this year. Disclosure can happen any time. But unless we start looking for it, unless we dream, unless we look for the stars, it's never going to happen. And it's time for us to start looking for it to happen. Even if the truth is we have some weird incidents we don't know how to explain, that's better information than this quasi-information we've been stuck in for the past 70 or 80 years. I don't know is better than not telling you. We wish to thank you for listening to the Silverlight Show today. If you want to support the show, like, share, subscribe, and hopefully you'll find it in you to buy a book, because that's where our income really comes from. Once again, thank you for listening to the Silverlight Show, and I hope you have a great day.